Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome in the Vikings Now by Chat Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman. As we got some breaking news to discuss on today's show, Sam Darnold won't be getting the franchise tag from the Minnesota Vikings. So, this was no shocker to a lot of us. The only way the Vikings could have put the tag on Darnold, I believe, is if they had a trade in place in a tag and trade to either a team like the Raiders, Giants, even a team like the Titans, which we discussed on today's show earlier. So we'll break this down. We'll talk about what this means for, obviously J.J. McCarthy. Could the Vikings also still potentially extend Sam Darnold and re-sign him to this football team for next season? We'll break it all down on today's show. But before we do so, make sure you guys do hit that subscribe button. We are closing in on 52,500 subs. So if you guys could go down there, click that sub button, stay up to date around everything around your Minnesota Vikings. It's going to be a hectic free agency and a very busy next couple of weeks. So if you guys don't want to miss a thing, hit that subscribe button. So this was tweeted out by Ian Rappaport, the exact tweet here, saying the Vikings are not expected to franchise tag quarterback Sam Darnold by Tuesday's deadline, but all parties are working through options to potentially keep him in Minnesota. Darnold, who is set to hit free agency, has a situation best described as fluid. And my initial reaction to this was, are we buying this? Are we truly buying into the idea that the Minnesota Vikings and Sam Darnold are still going through conversations about him returning to Minnesota? Or are we under the camp that the Vikings have completely moved on and maybe the Vikings could potentially, I don't know if this is the right term, but doing right by Darnold to tell, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, these guys to say the situation is still fluid, because the guy did win 14 football games for you. He threw for 35 touchdowns, was phenomenal up until the last 2 weeks of the season. So maybe that could be it, a little of the Vikings doing Darnold right. But, we were talking about this earlier. Let's just say Sam Darnold is maybe so gun-shy of what he saw from Kirk Cousins last season, where Kirk Cousins was with Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota Vikings, that whole support system. He left to go to the Atlanta Falcons. His career completely derailed. Now, yes, Kirk was way older, coming off a torn Achilles, so different situation where Sam Darnold, still 27 years old, thinking he's probably going to be playing some of the best football of his career over the next 4 to 5 seasons. But still, you've seen these quarterbacks come to the Vikings under Kevin O'Connell, play their best football. So I wonder if Darnold, if maybe him and his agent are coming to the Vikes and saying, hey, we are willing to come back for way less. And then let's just say it's a 2-year, I'll throw out a ludicrous number, 2 years, $40 million, $50 million. And maybe, most of that is guaranteed, but you could still get them on the books for, $15, $16 million, create void years or whatever you want. So it wouldn't be that big of a cap hit, still allow you to spend in free agency. But I wonder if the Sam Darnold and his camp could potentially go into the Vikings and just pretty much putting it out on the table, we will return for a discount. How big of a discount is that? I have no idea. But, we still know some of the top suitors for Darnold. The Giants are in there. Steelers are in there. The Raiders, the Titans as well. Still, I think the Giants and the Raiders are the two most likely teams to go after Darnold if the Giants don't end up getting a guy like Aaron Rodgers, or if the Raiders, still, if I had to call it, Sam Darnold is suiting up for Las Vegas week 1 of next season. But, I still think for the Vikings, the plan all along was to get that quarterback on a rookie deal and to just go for it. And, Kwesi coming from the San Francisco 49ers, they saw what they were able to build with Brock Purdy. You were able to get him 2 weapons, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk. The Vikings have that, and Addison and Jefferson. You got a really good tight end, Hawkinson, Kittle. You got that franchise left tackle, Trent Williams, Christian Darrisaw. And then now the Vikings, hopefully they can go find their Christian McCaffrey in the NFL draft. But the plan is to have that rookie quarterback so you can go spend big money on guys on defense, which the Vikings did last offseason with Jonathan Grenard. So are you willing to give Sam Darnold, $30, $35 million? Absolutely not. But still, point being, if Darnold and his camp are coming back to you saying, hey, we'll come play for $20 million per year, I wonder if that's something the Vikings are seriously considering. So I'll ask you guys this. Because I don't know if I have a good answer for you. Would you sign Darnold to a 2-year, $40 million deal? Yes or no down below in the comments section. Got to assume these cap hits would probably be around $15, $16 million per year, so you'll still be able to spend a lot in free agency. So you let me know. 2 years, $40 million for Darnold. Would you do it? I actually do have an answer for this. I'm gonna say no. Even if Darnold would come to you and say 2 years, $40 million, it's intriguing, but I still think the Vikings, they need to take a risk. And J.J. McCarthy is that risk because the Vikings are a very good football team. They're a very good franchise, a very well-run organization top to bottom. Are they great? Not yet. And I think to be great, you got to go take a risk. And J.J. McCarthy is that risk. So even if Darnold would agree to a 2-year, $40 million deal, I just think it's time to move on. I think it's J.J. McCarthy's team. I'm a big believer in him, and that can lead us right into this. Daniel Jones. I'm anticipating the Vikings will bring him back. I've heard reports around 1 year, $10 million, very similar to the Darnold deal. I could see maybe Daniel Jones wanting to come back to the Vikings on a 1 year, 6-7, even if he could go get $10 million elsewhere. But just be that bridge quarterback, and then if J.J. McCarthy obviously does have a setback coming back from this torn meniscus, which all reports are indicating he will be ready to go for OTAs. But then you do have a really solid option in a guy like Daniel Jones. And also one thing on Darnold, you also will most likely get a pretty good comp pick in 2026. Probably going to be a third rounder, especially if he goes signs for $35, $40 million. So even though we're all disappointed that we couldn't pull off a tag and trade in this whole situation, you will still most likely be rewarded in a comp pick in 2026. Would we have loved it this year? 100%. Considering the Vikings only have 4 draft picks, you would have loved to get in that extra third or extra 5th round pick if a team would have been down to do a tag and trade. But you're still going to get that in 2026. So I do think this is the Vikings moving on. And obviously these Tom Pelissero's, Ian Rappaport's, Schefter's saying that the situation is fluid and they're still open to potentially keeping him in Minnesota. I don't know if I am fully buying into that. But then again, like we were talking about, what if Darnold and his camp are coming to the Minnesota Vikings and, not necessarily begging to return, but pretty much what if they're just offering him a deal where the Vikings are saying, man, this guy did just throw for 35 touchdowns. Lead us to 14 wins. If we can improve the offensive line, which also was a disaster for Darnold for the last 2 weeks. No team is making a bigger addition than the Vikings are of just getting Christian Darrisaw back. I mean, he is truly a top 3 left tackle in the National Football League. So you're going to get him back. If you improve the offensive line, still with not paying Darnold a lot, if that is the case, where Darnold maybe wants to return on a cheap deal. But again, I just feel like that's unlikely. Everything we're hearing, this is J.J. McCarthy's team. They'll probably bring back Daniel Jones on a 1-year deal for he can just learn from this Vikings organization, then he can go sign elsewhere next offseason. So I don't really know what to make of the quote potentially keep him in Minnesota talk, but I'm just not really buying into it. But hey, if you guys are buying into it, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section. And appreciate all of you guys for watching a little late night breaking news episode of Vikings Now by Chat Sports. So make sure you guys are subscribed as well to the channel and hit that thumbs up icon on your way out. But we'll see you guys next time. As always, Skol Vikes.